End of quarter video for winter 2020. I'm your host, Ryan Louie, and I'm gonna try to make what I just gave, which was like a 1 hour long qual presentation, into 15 minutes. Okay, let's go. So, when we think about creating social bonds between groups of people who are familiar with one another, think college alumni, think um, coworkers, uh, draw our attention to what people are able to do when in person, and how do they socially connect in person. Well, one aspect of being in person is being able to have shared experiences. And when people, they can kind of, whether that's eating food together or doing stuff side by side, these are really important things that we can do while in person. A large body of literature studying how office workers kind of coordinate so interactions, but especially social interactions, found that that through physical proximity of being within each other's space, they can promote opportunistic interactions. So what if people, but then think about this scenario. What if people who were once co-located are forced to be remote and are now separated by distance? Well, could the current technologies they have for socially connecting support these two outcomes of shared experiences as well as convenient ways to interact? Well, social networking site feeds provide a shared awareness of each other's lives, but it's quite difficult to actually have a shared experience because everyone's kind of just posting about their independent lives or independent events arbitrarily, and it's hard to kind of find that alignment when people's situations both align to have a shared experience. We could coordinate time to video call too, and a lot of researchers have kind of, there's a long line of research that has studied video call and enhanced video call systems for kind of engaging in parallel activities at distance, whether that's doing homework at the same time, playing over the phone. And while they allow for these rich media conversations and activities, the problem with video chat is that it's quite expensive, costly and effortful. One is the time cost of coordinating to have video time, the time it requires to coordinate video calls, which make them maybe harder to use if you're going to socially connect with a large group of people or with a large number of social relationships. You just don't have enough time. Finally, another technology available is direct messaging, and direct messaging is great. We can kind of reach out to people directly, but when we think about a social group that is now, especially a social group like a college alumni group who's now separated by distance, they don't have a lot of common context or really activities that are bringing them together in order to direct message. So if someone is going to direct message, it can be really awkward to start that conversation out of the blue or break that ice. So, is there another way? Well, right, the question still stands. Are there social apps that allow us to socially interact through shared experiences while also finding convenient opportunities to do so? And putting it along, a 2x2, we have all these social technologies, but yeah, is there that social technology that balances both our desire to have shared experiences and the need to be able to fit them into our busy lives? Well, if we turn back to co-located interactions and what really inspired these two outcomes, we could see maybe a path forward. How could we take the interactional elements of co-located interactions and translate them to the at distance domain? Well, we introduce a technology, a conceptual approach that is able to accomplish both of these outcomes by surfacing opportune moments as they arise for engaging in shared experiences. Let me show you how that works. So, a collective experience might um, surface when two friends who are having drinks in different parts of the world to connect, and this collective experience could suggest a shared activity for them to connect through that reflects their shared situation. Before I dive too deep into how collective experiences work, I want to describe a little bit about how the related work around opportunistic interactions. So there's a whole body of literature around location-based apps or people nearby applications which use physical proximity to promote opportunistic interactions, and that's the kind of water cooler interaction that allows for convenient social opportunities. Um, but of course, what's needed is ways to go beyond the model of physical proximity that creates kind of spaces for people to interact in. There are a number of technologies that do create spaces for people to interact, whether that's a dedicated smartwatch app that creates a space in which people can kind of play with their biosignals. It's a space in which people can exchange little messages that are based on their heart rhythms. Um, but so that's possible, but and other technologies allow for surfacing moments that might be good opportunities to reconnect, birthday reminders or friend anniversaries, allow people to revisit shared experiences that they once had, like a shared photo that they had in person. But and while that can break the ice between people who now live at distance, it's not the same as creating new shared experiences, which is the outcome we really desire. There are technologies that do start to get at surfacing daily activities, kind of like simultaneous actions, like when two windows open or a door opens at the same time between two households. And while that can support this type of awareness that people are there despite being distant, the kinds of interactions possible are limited because it requires this specialized outfitting of the environment, like a door swinging or people sitting down on the couch. And these actions are aren't usually the types of interactions we think of as like having an experience. I might sit down on the couch to watch TV, or I might open the door to go on to go outside and go on a walk. But those are the kinds of activities I'm doing. These are more actions in the home, and they might not promote the kinds of shared experiences we're seeking. And there are others too, but I think the point is that for this related work, they don't while they do surface opportunities and surface convenient opportunities, they need to do more to focus on promoting the kinds of spaces that allow for rich sensory shared interactions and shared experiences. So towards developing an idea of opportunistic interactions at distance that do promote these kinds of shared experiences, we have to turn back to what makes these shared experiences unique, what's useful about them. And I think what's unique about these shared experiences in person is that people they share similar sensory stimuli, like being able to eat the same salad at the same time and know that visually others are experiencing the same as us. So we took the idea of having similar situations in which people are doing similar activities to this at distance domain. We created two interaction structures that gets people in similar situations, whether it's at the same time simultaneously or across time, but through similar situations, people can feel a sense of shared experiences. And so these two interaction structures, we call them, or create a kind of space between people's distributed contexts. The second is that we want to identify a way to link people's distributed contexts in a way that can maybe serve into an interdependent activity beyond shared experiences. I think shared activities are another great way to kind of socially connect people and bond a social group. And this idea comes from in-person examples of people going on scavenger hunts together and multiple people kind of coming together, collaborating, taking on different roles, but towards kind of a group bonding goal. So we thought of two other interaction structures that support different people in their distributed contexts to be able to make contributions towards shared goals. That could be whether it's completing different tasks on a list of challenges, and to complete maybe a task, you want certain people in a group have to be in certain situations to do it, as well as being able to use the different aspects of one's environment as a way to contribute and build on to maybe a shared artifact. Being able to tell a story, for example, together, where different pieces of a story are told, contributed by different people, using kind of the settings and environments they are in to add color to that story, to add diverse color to that story. Now, so beyond surfacing opportune moments and creating these spaces for people to interact, we have to be careful as designers on what particular aspects of the spaces we leverage in order for people to really feel that psychological sense of shared experiences, or a psychological sense that they're cooperating and maybe engaging in activities together. So I'm going to give one example of the interaction structure of an experience that we designed in pilot studies. And I claim that this experience is not one that promotes shared experiences. People are in the same situation. They might be here, two people in separate cities are given the opportunity to connect because they are at a rainy day. It's like raining in their two cities. But when we ask them to contribute, they might just take arbitrary photos of their environment. And then the thing that's shown is just their arbitrary photos side by side in this kind of photo gallery. And we could see that this isn't the kind of side by side shared experience that the original picture of people eating salad, it doesn't have that same feeling. So if you think about it, despite creating spaces around similar situations, both raining, we can actually it's possible to design the interaction poorly so that the space does not promote shared experiences or interdependent activities. But look at this example, which is an OCE we designed called Half-Half Photo. And Half-Half Photo is thoughtful about, given the shared interaction space of rainy days, it turns the interaction and focuses it on particular aspects to really highlight the shared experience part. So being able to stomp in puddles, do the same action at the same time, or when asking people to take the picture, like having people take a picture that visually is very similar of them doing similar actions. All of these aspects highlight kind of psychological mechanisms And that's kind of the design guideline we're giving, is that if you can highlight actions or shared experience, actions, affordances within the environment, and get people to and show like visual reminders of that co-experiencing, it's going to help with promoting that. So I'd like to, with not doing great on time right now, I'm already at 15 minutes. I'd like to brief you on, so I'm going to skip the Cerebro mobile app because it really is what I've told you. It surfaces opportune moments, and then people are able to participate in this mobile app to kind of contribute different halves of a photo, for example. I think what I do want to focus on, though, is not the programming platform, because I need some work on that. I will show you that we created an API for designers that allows them to implement these OCE programs. And it's pretty cool because we can navigate this design space of the 4 interaction structures quite easily with concise definitions in these programs. One of the ways we can do that, think about simultaneous shared experiences, like having drinks at the same time. Well, our code for that is really simple. It has a detector for drinking that depends on using context-aware features from Yelp and the phone queries for those things. But it also has just a simple parameter that controls how many people need to be synchronously there at the same time in that situation. And then, yeah, so that's that construct of needs. Whereas in this example, many people might be in different time zones, but contributing to this sunset time lapse. So we want multiple photos, and people might not have to be watching sunset at the same time, but across time, semi-synchronously. So in this code, we can easily adjust it where we're changing just a little bit, just the detector, which is now, instead of drinks, a sunrise or sunset detector. Depends on time of day. As well as we're changing that parameter, which tells us how many people need to be in the situation at the same time, to 1, which describes a semi-synchronous interaction. And so what this API allows is navigating this interaction structure design space easily, so that designers can quickly prototype and implement these OCEs. Now, you notice that, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. You notice that all of that API was really concise, and the reason why was that it focuses on I guess it relies on an execution engine underlying it that really does the hard work of matching users to kind of needs or the opportunities for them to contribute. And to be able to write programs concisely like that, we need this kind of execution engine that is really novel in some ways, because this execution engine really thinks about what kinds of it allows people to program on opportunities, these opportune interaction resources. So like the idea around, a space might open up, but I don't know who's going to be in that space. Like, we're able to program on that level of abstraction. And then the engine, what it does is it monitors people's situations, coordinates when their situation matches a space, multiple users matching that space, and then coordinates, and then when people do match, they participate into a collective experience, and then it progresses the state of the program so that maybe more spaces are opened up, or now we know that users are in a different context. So this engine does a lot of that heavy lifting of reacting to kind of the opportunities that are continually arising. It's a really cool kind of architecture to support this this new kind of concept of opportunities for shared experiences. Okay, so a little bit off time. I'm 20 minutes, but I want to talk to you a little bit about our deployment study results. So in this deployment study, we really asked what this question of whether OCEs are able to promote shared experiences, as well as do so in a convenient manner, give opportunities that are convenient. I'm not going to read my research questions for now, but blue is around shared experiences, green is around convenient opportunities. And really we're asking, does it fall in this white space? Now, yes, in this study we used, as in comparison, two other social networking site affordances. Those first was direct message apps, as well as social media feeds or posts and replies. And why we chose these was they are also, like OCEs, brief direct interactions. So whether it's sending a text or replying to someone's post, there's a similar amount of commitment, as well as the modality on a mobile device and the kind of asynchronous nature in which people do it. All of it, and like the photo sharing, all of that is, I guess, closest to OCEs. And that's why we use that as comparison opportunity. We don't compare to video call because there's so many affordances between video call and like the scheduling aspect, as well as it being live, rich media, audio, voice, video, that Cerebro didn't build in, that our current version of Cerebro didn't build in. But yeah, for future studies, we might look at video. Yeah, so we recruited 28 participants, and they were college alumni. And these people were familiar, the groups were familiar with each other, so they had this desire to reconnect with people. And people used it for 3 weeks, and we gave them surveys and interviews. And at the end of the day, 21 participants kind of showed up and finally filled out the final surveys. So we're working with a data set of 21 people. And through this type of data, we kind of triangulate the findings based on their participation data, like the artifacts or system logs collected by the system, their qualitative reflections on their experience, as finally their quantitative survey ratings of some questions around the social connectedness of their interactions. Now, green. So yeah, so to what extent do OCs promote opportunities for direct engagement? Well, yeah, excitingly, over 20 days, people actually were able to connect in the ways we really conceptualized. It was very exciting. 36 half photos were created, but these people were, as a reminder, like going about their days, and we set up many opportunities. This hand silhouette experience was trying to find people when it was sunny and clear out, a clear day outside, while maybe this other one on the right, eating with chopsticks, was one where people had to go to a Asian restaurant or some restaurant that you can eat with chopsticks and take a picture of their food. But yeah, what's fascinating about these pictures in front of you is that people were just going about their days. We just told them to install the app for 20 days, and this is kind of what arose. So by going through situations, and as opportunities arose, our ideas around OCs really, and embedded in Cerebro, really enabled people to actually participate and create these kinds of photos that are really cute. They're delightful. So in addition, we created another, so one of the other the OCE interaction structure around interdependent activities focused on was the storybook activity, and we also saw that people were able to contribute sequentially to this one too. They were contributing this Harry Potter story, but what was great was that people wrote different sentences for their story page, and then others actually used their situation to illustrate the sentence before them. And it was this. It's so obvious that uh, that the contributions of others were interdependently connected. But our system was able, Cerebro was able to promote these opportunities through the engine and through these experiences that we implemented as social experience designers. Yeah, so I have some summary stats here too. The average number of interactions was 3 over the 3 weeks, so we can get to that later. But that's a good average. But our ideas around daily situations, people can interact in daily situations. Well, this is almost like weekly situations. It might not be happening at the interaction frequency we might like, but 14 of the 21 participants actually were able to have that completed interaction, which is like creating a half photo together or being able to participate in this storybook together. So 14 were able to at least have an interaction with others. And because these were college alumni that hadn't connected with each other in a while, people said that they, through OCEs, they got to re-interact with people, even some people they hadn't even talked to since graduation. So we hypothesized that this new approach of using everyday situations that arise in people's lives would give this, and then by surfacing that moment as a social interaction opportunity, it would make it convenient for them to interact. So we found that as we got people to compare their interactions on Cerebro versus other social media apps, that Cerebro did lower these barriers to connecting it. They found convenient moments to participate and post. So in this one example, people described on Snapchat, they have to usually the user the user has to think about moments that are worthy to share, whereas in collective experiences, it pings you during these everyday moments. But beyond pinging, it people said it's easy to contribute during these moments because they said, I'm just here, but really your daily situation in which you're notified provides the grounding for you contributing to this kind of to a kind of social experience. So it becomes very easy. It becomes very convenient. You don't know because the user doesn't need to know when or how to really contribute, but yet they get these social benefits, or these proposed social benefits at least. And compared to something like starting an interaction via direct messaging, social OCEs were better. People talked about how, when using Cerebro, it kind of structures the way, because it creates a space, a shared interactional space around those situations that you engage in. It'll instruct you to maybe take a picture of your environment, and that interaction makes sense for that interaction space. But by doing that, it's a lot easier than having no kind of space that grounds an interaction. If you don't have a space, direct messaging can be very hard. Someone might just say, hey, it's been a while, how's it going? And there's hardly any common ground. So without that common ground, those kinds of reach outs don't happen very frequently. And I think that's why, by creating grounding within people's situations and creating interaction spaces from people's situations, it became convenient to start an interaction. Oh, right. I am still need to delete these. Sorry. So for research question 3, do people feel these interactions promote shared experiences and feelings of social group closeness? Um, we found that OCs do promote sharing similar experiences and engaging joint activities and more than um, posting and replying on social networking sites. Yeah, and users rated Cerebro significantly higher. But for direct messaging, Cerebro wasn't significantly different. We can think about, yeah. But again, OCs, OCs were able to promote a higher degree of entitativity, or this feeling of group social closeness. And it did so more than posts and replies. So right there. But again, for entitativity, OCs was not significantly different. Describe Thinking about a little bit of the social closeness or feeling involved in each other's lives, we found that OCs are able to promote that more than posts and replies because of these design characteristics around similar situations. And I'll cover similar situations, but one user said that on Snapchat and Instagram, you see people's stories. The person is posting about their day or whatever they're up to, but you're not really a part of that if you're not at a restaurant or walking on a beach like them. They who are posting don't actually have to think about you, the replier or the viewer, while they're posting the story. We find that really interesting because this user's talking about how without that similar situation, connecting people, they're not going to feel shared experiences, of course. And beyond that, they're not thinking about you because you're not thinking about a co-experiencer. These experiences are just really independent. Whereas with OCEs, shared experience, these similar situations do promote shared experiences. And it was a reminder that by sharing an experience, it's a reminder of your co-experiencer. And note that we designed the OCEs to use these design mechanisms, right? We designed the half-half photos to use visual reminders of that co-experiencing to make it more salient. So in a lot of ways, the ways we designed the experiences with the guidelines promoted this kind of social closeness. Okay, I'm at 33 minutes. So I'm going to zoom past and talk a little bit about limitations and obstacles. So while we had a lot of while people were able to kind of interact through OCEs, we found that people were notified a lot more than they participated. There was a big occurrence of false positives, and yeah, so one user who actually even used that word, I got a ton of false positives. Like my bus stop was apparently tagged as an Asian food restaurant and a bar. So false positives resulted in a lot of notifications, and that could be bothersome to users. So that was a limitation of the way we deployed this system, Cerebro. Some of the false positives were a little bit more believable, like being asked to take a picture of a puddle on a rainy day, but it's raining on that day, but you're inside, so there's no puddles inside. So that becomes difficult because users because Cerebro thinks users are in a situation, but users are not actually in a situation in which they can use their environment to participate. But what was silly was that some tried their best to still engage in the activity or the experience, even if their environment didn't match perfectly. Um, let's take this photo on the right, the puddle feet experience. This one person was notified inside while it was raining, but instead of ignoring um, the experience, they actually just raised their foot to the window where there was droplets outside, um, as a way to kind of get at that puddle feet feeling, but they are not in fact jumping in a puddle. I think that's very interesting that users were able to improvise like that. Of the 36 half-half photos, these might have been the 2 or 3 or max 4 that actually happened like that. So this is just a small limitation, but it didn't happen always. And finally, one thing that prevented people's participation was during the study was their personal busyness, as well as their social busyness or hesitations around participating in the moment. What we found was that when people were already engaged in a real life social interaction, many of them were conscious about, a couple of them were conscious about not picking up their phone or not wanting to participate in this digital shared experience because they're already socializing, but in person. In a second scenario, when people are preoccupied on their phone, they're trying to accomplish some task on their phone, getting a notification about participating in an experience was distracting, and they said that they didn't have really the time or capacity to be participating. And finally, the same could be true for personal busyness in real life tasks. Someone was notified to participate while at the train station, but this person was just coming off the train and wrangling their bike off the train, and they had no time to kind of look at their phone. So a lot of these notifications came, but users saw the notifications after the fact, after they didn't have the opportunity anymore. So in discussion, I want to talk about the key takeaways of the kind of our approach and what the results from our study kind of illustrate. So I think in our studies, we saw that being able to surface these spaces that links across distributed contexts was helpful for creating convenient opportunities. There are two aspects to these spaces. One is that it just pings you to engage, but also people are within the situation. These spaces are created based on situations that arise. So users' current moment always allows them to participate in some space. And those two features seem to be able to lower that energy and commitment to start interaction as compared to a direct message, or even start sharing and posting about their lives. We can think about how to ease direct engagement in future interactions. One interesting insight from our work was that some people mentioned that they'd feel more comfortable when they could talk about their experience. So people who had an experience on Cerebro, they never really reached out to each other. We asked them that because there wasn't really a messaging feature in the app. But they did say if they saw each other in person, they'd feel more comfortable talking with this person because they could maybe bring up in conversation that they had this experience. And that speaks to this interesting thing about collective experiences in which these new experiences that people have on the app could provide grounding for future interactions. We can imagine that the shared half-half photo someone creates could be almost like a new shared post that gets created, and people might want to be able to reply or react to that newly created post to talk about that shared experience. And it could be really interesting for future work if this was integrated into social media platforms to create posts that are shared in this way. Um, One other aspect about these spaces that was created by collective experiences was that they created a grounding for interactions. And the spaces, um, what kind of defines the space is what defines what social interactions are possible. So when we think to other apps, other related opportunistic social matching apps, location-based, let's say, location-based opportunistic interactions use that physical proximity, and physical proximity supports um, maybe an in-person interaction, getting to meet up in person after checking in. Through some applications that surface how resurface past events and connect them to our present day, these spaces that are created create a social interaction in which people can reminisce about the past together, reminisce about past shared experiences. And finally, some of the other work around kind of everyday actions, whether it's like opening a door, can promote this awareness just in the same way like an opening of a door in real life at home can signal that, oh, someone just came home, right? But so it's being thoughtful about what the space is that creates the grounding is something that our work kind of sheds some more light to. So with our approach, we ground the interactions in these daily physical situations that arise. And we think this kind of shared interactional space is really unique because people are able to take advantage of shared stimuli or even shared object affordances within the environment. So I'm talking like being able to slurp noodles. We can both slurp noodles because we're both at an Asian restaurant, or I can look at the beautiful sunset because it's sunset time. So these rich stimuli make it possible to have makes it possible to have a kind of interaction where it's around shared experiences using the present moment. And another interesting part about this interactional space we've created around physical situations is that people who go about their daily lives often will encounter mundane moments like commuting on the train or walking outside during sunset. And I think what's nice about this work is that we can surface opportunities, interactional spaces, really, to connect through the small mundane moments too. And I think that's how we find a way to fit these interactions into our busy lives. So yes, I'm not gonna. Yeah. So I think that's all my takeaways. So thank you so much for listening to now my 45-minute talk instead of 15 minutes.